Thursday, July 23rd, aka Training Camp Eve. Welcome into KC Sports Tonight. Marlia Campbell here with Neil Jones. We just wrapped up the World Cup. Now we're rocking and rolling straight into training camp.
You missed the World Cup?
It was a blink in the rearview mirror. It feels like it went by so fast. Do I miss the World Cup?
I miss the games.
I do. I miss all of it. It was fun. Yeah.
Have you been out there since then?
To Arrowhead?
Yeah.
No, I went back like 3 days after or something, I think right after England trained, and I saw them slowly taking down the stuff. But you were just out there. Is it still,
It's like, that's where and I was going live yesterday for about 3.5, 4 hours, because we were in the 4, the 5, and then KC Sports Tonight. And so I'm in this about 30, 40 yards away from where we would go. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, golly, look at this.
So have they taken everything down? Does it look?
Yeah, where it really got me, though, was when I pulled around the opening.
Yeah.
Where the buses would pull up, and then we would have to weave our way through the protective cement columns to keep people from driving cars through it. So you get up there, and that's no big deal. But then when you go down on the other side where all the media stuff was, the media tent and all that stuff, it's almost all out. And so it is. And I have to admit that I'm really glad I got the chance to cover it. And I wish that the last match, when you said you kept sending me, you got to come in, we got these great seats.
Yeah.
But I was like, my job is out here. If I'm late getting out here, I've got to maybe anchor a sports cast and have highlights. I've got to get the thing with the fans done so they can pull bites. So I was just like, wouldn't enjoy it, but I wish now I'd gone inside for that final match.
Yeah, I know you and I have talked about how that Argentina Algeria match, the first one, was just like a moment we'll never forget. Watching Messi score the hat trick, and
do you remember? I said, "What are we doing?" Well, not really anything. I have to go down and we have to get post afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't have any responsibility.
Yeah, we weren't in the show that night. I think kickoff was late, so we just kind of got to like a rare chance to sit back and enjoy. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've just been moving so fast that we haven't really had a second to like sit back and reflect. But that was really cool. And you and I, we've talked about FIFA allows 2 media credentials per outlet, and you and I were the representatives for KCTV5. And
because you have to be 16 or above, and the rest of our staff are all right there, almost can get their driver's license.
We got to see some really, really cool things, not just with like the matches themselves, but like being feet away from Messi at practice training.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, there's no question that's a big deal.
Yeah. Well, speaking of big deals, tomorrow we roll right into training camp.
Can you believe it?
No rest for the weary. No, because usually, how the sports season goes is we have like May and June to just kind of decompress, and we're all going on trips and stuff, and then we kind of rally back for training camp. But we're rolling right into it. Neil, I know you did a great story today about the top 3.5.
You haven't seen the story yet, have you?
I did. I saw it at 5 when I was in the dressing room. Yeah.
I don't know how
that's
great
why
it was.
I say the top 3.5 storylines that you're following into training camp. I know the number 1 is obvious, so let's start there. Patrick Mahomes heading into the most interesting, obviously, training camp of his career so far.
Well, my number 1 storyline was Mahomes' knee.
Yeah.
But my 1A, and in some ways maybe just as big, is his performance on the field. And the reason that's different is that when we go to training camp, we are looking to say, okay, has Travis slowed down a little bit? Has this guy gotten better? Especially you're looking for the wide receivers and the skill people under Andy Reid to really have strong second years. Because his playbook's so hard to learn. So you're looking for all these little signs, but you're really not. If anything goes wrong on offense, you're going, Mahomes will be fine. Well, now, if he wants to be the starter, he says that he wants to be the starter against Denver on September 14th, Monday Night Football, or whatever it is at Arrowhead Stadium. He wants to be the starter. Well, it's not going to be just, is his knee okay? It's also going to be, is he playing well? Because I assume he's not going to be 100%. He's not going to be as good at camp than he was when he was healthy last season. He will take a step back. He won't be as mobile. He will have concerns with his left knee. That's the knee. It's in some ways easier to tear up your right knee if you're a right-handed thrower, because now you're coming down on that and you've got create more torque on that front knee. Marlia, suddenly we're going to be looking to see how's he doing. And suddenly it's not just can the backup quarterback come in and play a week or two, just so we're looking at Chad Henne or whoever the guy is going to be. No, this guy might start the season for you as your starter.
Yeah.
I think it's a double-barreled thing. One, is he limping around? How's his knee feel? Are they having to drain it every day? Two, how's he playing as a football player?
Yeah, we're going to be, I mean, you brought this up. It's not just what he does do, it's what he doesn't do. How much does Justin Fields get involved with the ones? Obviously, it's going to be a substantial amount either way. You can't read into it too much because he has to be able to pick up this offense in the matter of 8 weeks. I know they've gotten a little bit into the install, but
best thing that could happen is, and I've thought about this, and it sounds like something you would throw on a talk radio to get everybody to call in. But I'm serious about this.
Yeah.
The best thing that could happen is that we're looking up week 3 or 4, and you got an undefeated football team, and you got a quarterback controversy because you've got two guys who have played really well. I've always assumed that Mahomes would not start the regular season. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think he'll do it. I know everybody in the NFL thinks he will, except I've been in thousands of knee operations, thousands, and I understand the realities of that graft. And is it 100%? So, Marlia, the best thing that could happen is this football team gets off to a strong start. The backup quarterback plays a couple of weeks and looks great. And now you're like, you know what? This is a good problem to have. That's what I want. What I don't want to have happen is Mahomes comes back too soon and goes down. If you'd come back, you had a severe right shoulder injury in college, had to be operated on. I mean, they told you could play, but I guarantee you weren't 100% when
No,
you came
I didn't
back.
want anyone touching it. Which brings me to kind of this point, Neil, which is how much do you think we're going to be able to see out of training camp? Because quarterbacks don't get hit at training camp, period. In the past, Andy Reid has played his starters like maybe 2 drives in the first preseason game. You get 3, and then maybe a drive in the second, then leave them out in the third. There's an argument to be made if Mahomes is starting week 1, you don't want his first time being hit being Monday night against the Broncos. But I don't know if we're going to be super confident heading into the end of the preseason here as to what our answer is for week 1, unless Andy Reid gives us a cut and clear answer, which is kind of rare. But Neil, you said you've been involved in countless knee operations. That's not hyperbolic because you were involved in healthcare for a while, and I know you've had a couple knee operations yourself. Mahomes does seem to be ahead of the curve timeline-wise, right? I mean, he was moving and throwing 5.5 months to the day at OTAs. But do you think we'll get answers at training camp?
Well, because he plays quarterback and not another position where you're going to get hit.
Right.
In theory, a quarterback shouldn't be hit a whole lot, particularly in the NFL where they protect quarterbacks. So I think with him, we're going to be able to tell a lot by what we see on the field. Is he able to step into his throw? Is he able to have lateral quickness in motion? All the things that you look at in an athlete. If he's able to be an athlete and move around, if they're not having to drain his knee every day, although certainly you can play. I had to get my knee drained after every football game in high school because I had a really bad severe injury with my right knee. So you can play by having problems and everything, but the reality is I think we'll be able to tell with him a lot more. With a running back, like if this was a running back, eventually you're going to get hit on the knee or whatever. You got to do it. Quarterbacks, I think you can tell. Is he athletic? Is he able to protect himself, get around? Andy Reid has said that a few times. He said mainly to media who are not thinking this through or media who aren't as experienced. He's like, well, a quarterback has to defend himself with his legs. That's how he gets away from tackles. That's how he keeps from getting blown up. Even though the rules protect the quarterback, you can still get blown up. And so we've got to see that he's 100% and can get down and get around. And they're going to have to see that on the field. And if he can't do that, if it's not going to be 100% live games during training camp, but he's going to have to be in team drills where there is pass rush, and he's going to have to move around laterally, and then I think they'll have a pretty good idea. What I don't want to have happen is the worst case scenario where he comes back and he blows his knee out week 3 or 4 because it's just not healed, and now you were looking at missing the rest of the year. That's what you don't want to have happen.
Yeah, they're walking a tightrope. Neil, something that I think will certainly help this year was, and to rewind, you remember Mahomes led the team in rushing through week 5 last year because Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt were not effective.
Right.
This year, you're bringing Kenneth Walker into the mix here, defending Super Bowl MVP. He's 25. He's not a running back you're relying on kind of at the tail end of his career here. Talking about other big headlines, I guess, is my segue. Kenneth Walker is a big one. I know you've been talking about Rashee Rice. What are kind of some other things that you're going to be lasering in on the first couple of, I won't say first couple of days, first week or two once everyone arrives?
Well, I think the offensive line situation is going to be interesting. Josh Simmons, I was listening to Tim Grunhard on radio, and of course Tim played, coached offensive line at a very high level, and he said Josh Simmons looked like he weighed about 270, which would have been fine like when I was in college in the 1970s. A 270-pound tackle was pretty good size. Not anymore.
He's a fit guy. He looks
is
like a tight end.
He is a great athlete.
Yeah.
He's cut. He's got muscle definition. Sometimes that can be a detriment. But I don't. So anyway, his concern was that he's going to have to bulk up and that he would be able to bulk up and get ready for the season. They need a good year from him. By all accounts, he had a good rookie year playing left tackle, coming off a severe knee injury himself, and he was impressive. The right side, Jalen Moore is the guy that I think we all hope will get the job. It'll be interesting to see exactly how that breaks out. But Marlia, Walker was a great running back and running the stretch and some zone stuff. Mm-hmm. The Chiefs don't really do that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So it's a question mark as to how they're going to use him. Certainly, if anybody could tweak his playbook to what he wants it to be, it's Andy Reid. So yeah. I'm sure Andy Reid will find the optimal way to use his gifts. But Walker has not had a completely healthy run his entire career for the most part. It's important that he stay healthy. They don't overuse him, and it's important that they avoid doing what you started this conversation with, and that is with a quarterback leading him in rushing.
Seems like every year we go into camp with this glaring hole. 2 years ago, it was wide receiver when this is insane. Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore were your 1 and 2 on a team that.
Wait a minute! I didn't think we were allowed to say Kadarius' name anymore.
Yeah, on a team that ended up winning a Super Bowl last year. I know the conversation was all about left tackle. You had Josh Simmons, as you mentioned, coming off that knee injury, and Wanye Morris, who had kind of been in the backup role for the tenure of his short career. What are your biggest concern areas, position group wise, that you're keeping an eye on?
Well, if the pass rush doesn't get better. They've invested in it. They brought in a defensive tackle who's a handful to handle, a guy who gets north-south, who creates opportunities, who gets in the backfield, who can play against the run. They bring him in from New England. He's a guy that they feel you put him next to Chris Jones, and maybe Chris Jones doesn't get double/triple teamed all the time.
Yeah.
Because here's another guy inside who doesn't just sit there and mind his gaps. He's a guy you have to account for. So they think that's going to make Chris Jones a more effective player. And then they bring in another defensive tackle, first-round draft pick from Clemson, same type of guy, ball of fire, gets after it. They feel like that he can give them some snaps. Chris Jones does not need to play every snap, as you know. These are you rotate those guys in. And then they brought in R. Mason Thomas, who's undersized, but he played in the SEC at Oklahoma. And because he went to Oklahoma, I followed his career. He is a guy that makes plays. Now, I also thought the same thing about Felix Uzomah.
Yeah.
He was a guy who made plays in college, and he got up to this level, and he didn't have the physicality to be able to do it, or the technique apparently, to live up to what we had all hoped he would do. He's a first-round pick. R. Mason Thomas is sort of like that. He's a guy that in college was dominant. He played in a tough league. He was able to bull rush against big offensive linemen from the SEC who then went on to play in the NFL. There was a first-round draft pick against LSU. It was kind of R. Mason Thomas's national coming-out party for a bad Oklahoma team late in the year down there on national television. He beats this first-round draft pick left tackle like 3 times and crushes the quarterback, Nussbaum, who's now playing for the Chiefs. He's a free agent rookie. He hits him, forces a fumble, and everyone's like, this R. Mason Thomas guy is beating a first-round draft pick. So I think R. Mason Thomas is a guy that's got some juice. His former head coach, Brent Venables, who knows defense and knows Spags defense, talked about this at SEC Media Days 2 days ago. He goes, in Spags' defense with the way that they move people around, R. Mason Thomas is going to be a star. So I hope he's right.
Yeah, Katie and I were talking about how there's so many, like, the Mahomes storyline is going to dominate every single day for good reason. That is what everyone is focused on, as you pointed out, not just in Chiefs Kingdom, but across the country. But there are so many, like, micro storylines. One of them that you mentioned, Garrett Nussmeier, the LSU quarterback who had a really rough senior year, but prior to that was expected to be like a second-round draft pick. Chiefs picked him up in the 7th round. Could potentially be QB2 to start the season if Mahomes is not ready to go, or is it Chris Oladokun? So, that's kind of an interesting battle. Neil, you talked about Felix Anudike-Uzomah, a guy who the Chiefs did not pick up his 5th-year option.
Can we root for him anymore?
Yeah, gosh.
I want him to have a great year.
Yeah, everyone had. I mean, the spectacle of his draft night, which was he was walking around Kansas City. I thought this was one of my favorite stories of that draft. He was walking around in like the Fan Fest area, and nobody knows that this is a guy who's going to be picked in the first round. Chiefs end up picking a guy from their own backyard in Kansas City in the 1st round, but really hasn't panned out. Had a tackle for a loss in the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. He had an injury all last year. Chiefs declined his 5th-year option. This is a huge year for that guy to stay either in Kansas City or get picked up elsewhere.
No, he needs to have a good season. He needs to be healthy, and he needs to be active on the defensive front. That means he's got to win some battles and start getting into the backfield. That's what got him to the draft. That's why he was drafted. And so he needs to have a good year, and, of course, he knows that. And we're all rooting for him, no question. But it would benefit them a lot.
Right.
Last year they were so desperate for outside pass rush. Had he been healthy, I think he would have got 1,000,000 snaps, and I think we would have really known by then, is he a player or not? And I think he'll get a chance in the preseason and at camp to see what he can do.
Last kind of Chiefs topic I want to touch on, wide receiver. You have Rashee Rice, who has just been a bizarre story of rehabbing a knee surgery in jail.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I use video of him being released from jail. And because I said he's overcome a knee injury, a 6-game suspension, and a 30-day, another minor knee surgery combined with a 30-day jail sentence. Can he overcome all this stuff? And I use that video. Do you think that's a cheap shot? Because we've used it on Channel 5, and it's real. And the reason I used it is, Marlia, he's one more trouble away from being back in jail, and you can forget about a suspension. He won't be out.
Yeah, these have been, things that he's caused, right? Particularly, I know with the probation violation that ended up putting him into jail after the knee surgery, which is obviously not an ideal place to be rehabbing something serious heading into an NFL season. Is this his last year on his contract? He has one more.
Nope, this is it. This
is his last year.
And one of the big articles this year, if you look nationally, is about he's the guy that if he has a great year could make almost as much money as any wide receiver there is. But if he has a bad year, if he gets in trouble with the law again and he is taken away and he can't play football because he's in jail, which could very well happen if he has another incident with the police, then you were looking at somebody who's not even in the league.
Yeah, there are things in his control, which has been the issues with the law, and then there are things out of his control, which have been the knee injury last year, which was a freak thing with Mahomes, and then whatever happened, whether it was a cleanup, we don't know if that was kind of an acute thing or not. So he's going to need both of those things, again, one in his control, one not necessarily, to be in his favor this year. And gosh, the Chiefs need him because, you part ways with Hollywood Brown. So you're looking at Rashee Rice, lots of question marks. Xavier Worthy, who had an off-season procedure as well.
I think he'll be good this year.
Yeah. And then you have number 3, Tyquan Thornton, who was the darling of training camp last year, got some opportunities this past season, not as much. So certainly not like I know last year the big storyline, Neil, is you were watching number 1, number 4, number 5 walk down the hill, and it was like, man, this is going to be the best wide receiver group we've had in the Mahomes era. They were so fast, all these things. They didn't really perform much. Granted, yes, I know Xavier had in hindsight, we know he had the labrum tear.
That was huge.
Yeah.
That was huge.
That's, gosh, I can speak to, you're talking about knee injuries. Doing anything Athletic with a shoulder tear, because they put those off until, those are kind of things that you can hold off until the end of the season and then fix.
But you got to play through the pain.
Yeah, and some mobility issues. But
and every time he caught the ball, he'd run out of bounds, which infuriated a lot of people. And now we know why, because they were telling him, "Don't get hit, get out of bounds."
Very easy way to dislocate that thing if something's already torn. But I would say that group has underperformed this year. You have Rice hurt, Worthy hurt, and then Tyquan Thornton, who hasn't really had this platform, I suppose, that it looks like you'll have coming into the season. Then you go Jalen Royals, Cyrus Allen, Nico Remigio has been a big special teams guy. So, Neil, that'll be my question mark is, can the wide receiver room do Mahomes any favors this year?
You know, it's interesting. We blamed the wide receivers last year. Rashee Rice did not look very good. He didn't he wasn't the playmaker he had been. Hollywood Brown was okay. He led the wide receivers in yards, but we didn't see him with a lot of deep ball catches. And Worthy was kind of, you could tell that after that getting hurt in week one, friendly fire from Travis Kelce on a crossing pattern, he wasn't the same. So I was talking to a scout, and he basically said, I question, now this is a defensive player, but he said, I question that it's all of them. I think the offense has dried up. I think defenses have adjusted to Andy Reid's offense. They will not let them throw the ball over their heads anymore. And I'm like, well, they threw it over. They were getting killed in the Super Bowl in New Orleans. In the fourth quarter, all Mahomes did was throw it deep, and he was able to connect with Worthy on a couple of catches.
Yeah.
And he goes, okay, well, how did it go last year? And I go, it didn't. And part of that's the offensive line play has not been consistent, and Mahomes has not been able to stand back there and drift around and wait for guys to get upfield.
Run game was a non-factor, yeah.
And part of it is the fact that people are playing so deep that you can't run past them. It doesn't matter. You can be the world's fastest human, which is what Xavier Worthy was at the Combine, and it doesn't matter. They can't get deep. So that, in other words, they need to run their offense and run underneath routes. And I have people saying, every time I'm with my in-laws, are they going to bring Tyreek Hill back? Tyreek Hill had a severe knee injury. One, can he come back? Is he going to be a good player? Is he going to have his mobility and quickness back? Two, would it matter? I mean, we don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that they're going to have to be more – I hope I'm wrong. I hope they start throwing it downfield again like they used to, but it sure looks like the defenses have kind of taken that away from them.
Yeah, and you wonder if, any help in the run game would open up kind of an option of defenses not just sulking back and saying, okay, fine, Chip shot us for 3-4 yards a play and, beat us that way.
Wouldn't it be fun to see them run the ball down people's throats?
Could you imagine?
I mean, and you got a running back who could do that if you can block it up.
Pacheco and Hunt had like one rush over 20 yards combined last season.
Which is just one more than me, and I didn't even play.
Yeah.
I had one more than me, and I didn't play.
On that perfect cap to that segment. Moving on to the Royals really quickly. Salvador Perez tying George Brett's home run record. Yeah, with 317 yesterday.
I was in the parking lot when it hit it.
Yeah, did you hear the...
Yeah, all the stuff went off, yeah.
The next closest... By the way, George Brett and Salvador Perez are not just the only Royals over 300 home runs. They're the only Royals over 200 home runs in franchise history.
Well, look where they play.
Unbelievable. Yeah, fair point. Tonight they're in Detroit, so we'll look to see if Salvi can get number 318 and hold the record outright. But, Neil, Royals have won 5 out of 6 coming out of the All-Star break here. Is there a reason to be excited?
Sure, be excited about the way they're playing. Be happy for them. They're 43-60. Now, I'm not very good at math. That's 17 games under 500.
They are 10 games back from the last wild card spot.
Yep.
Which is crazy because they were 11 coming out of the break, and then you win 5 out of 6. You think you would gain a little bit of ground, but
there's
no
so many teams up there that a couple of other teams are hot too, so you don't really pick up. Look, they got 59 games to play. Marlia, I'd love it if they could be over 500 and play good football or good baseball down the stretch. Bobby Witt Jr. is out right now with a back problem, and backs are scary. That's not something you want. That's the kind of thing that could be a recurring problem.
Yeah.
I hope it isn't. But you got to hope your mainstays, the guys who have been playing well since the All-Star break, your best players for the most part have stepped up. You got to hope that they keep doing it. I don't know what they're going to do in the bullpen, because every time they bring somebody in, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're bringing that guy in?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that the manager has a lot of names to plug into the lineup to save himself in terms of to save the team. But the bottom line is you hope that they played better. I don't think they were nearly as bad a group as they played the first half of the season. Hopefully they play like a good team down the stretch.
Royals in Detroit right now. That'll do it for us here on KC Sports Tonight, and we will see you back here same time, same place tomorrow.